Take a look at this chart. This is from the New York Post.
Yeah.
When Biden takes office, inflation skyrockets. And this isn't the only chart. It's just the one I just quickly Google searched. There's one that is more, it's more granular. It gets down into the days. And I remember seeing this, and it talks about wages and inflation.
Yeah.
The moment Joe Biden is elected, he signs a bunch of executive orders, and we see inflation go straight up and wages go straight down.
Yeah.
And I've had people say, oh, well, the reason that spike happens has nothing to do with Biden. It's because of the debt spending and COVID. And I'm like, no. You can't say that and then see the change happen literally right after the signing of like 30 executive orders. Something he did right when he got in office caused this flip to happen.
Yep.
Or unless you're arguing some grand conspiracy where Trump set some executive orders to expire that no one knew about.
I don't think anyone can believe that credibly because, again, I don't think that there's anyone, even on the conservative side, that was actually really working with Trump to help him. I think they did everything they could to subvert him, including the Fed, including, I don't think you'd pretend that those guys were working. I think, in the midst of a pandemic, you had to do some spending to keep businesses open. That's fine. But they want to keep that going in perpetuity. It just doesn't work. The math doesn't. You're going to have to pay the piper sometime.
I think I actually may have found Real Clear Politics. This is from Real Clear Politics. Take a look at this. So right when Joe Biden gets inaugurated, you can see wages drop way down and inflation spikes. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Biden administration, right when he comes in, crashes.
Yeah. And that's the sad thing. I mean, bringing those jobs back to America, and I went to boarding school, but I went to boarding school in like sort of old, central Pennsylvania, sort of old, sort of industrial town, one of those towns that, time forgot. And again, growing up, it was the home of Firestone tires and like Mrs. Smith's pies and stuff like that. And you just see these, dilapidated buildings and stuff like that. And it's just like, man, these were once like great, like thriving areas that are just run down. And it's like bringing those jobs back, bringing back American manufacturing, bringing back car manufacturing to Detroit. Like it was happening. Yeah. Like, it's not rocket science. Like, you can do it if you even care a little bit. If you can break away from the billionaires, if you can, you can actually do this still in America. And then to watch that reversal. It's just...
To what degree is it an intentional... Is it a controlled demolition, right?
How could it not be, man? Like, you know what I mean? Like, again, all Joe Biden had to do was nothing. They can't do that.
Let the ship sail.
Let the ship sail, continue it out. They can't, they even say, they want it. Well, and then a year later, they're like, we're going to bring back maybe Trump's policy on the border because, you mean because it was always working? You had to do something different, right? The withdrawal of Afghanistan, a true disgrace. You couldn't just leave it alone the way they had it. You had to change it so you can have the headline of you did it faster. So instead of doing it during the winter when they're hiding in caves, you do it during the fighting season when they can come and take over Kabul in 12 days. But they couldn't see it coming. I'm like, I'm not a military expert, but let's just assume I know jack shit about Afghanistan. Like, I saw that coming.
It's on purpose.
Like they saw it coming, but they needed the soundbite, knowing that there was no consequence because the media, big tech would make sure the story was like, Joe Biden did this. He's a great hero. He had to mess it up. He couldn't leave it alone. They needed to make it their own, and they knew that if they made it their own, even if it's a disaster, they got full coverage by the media of how wonderful and great he is. Just like those same people are telling you that he created more jobs than any president in history.
Yep.
Do you think the American people believe it? Because I feel like a lot of Americans remember what happened in Afghanistan, and they will not be able to forget it.
I think we're chipping away slowly. I think it's why they're going to do what they can to prevent the inevitable, from happening. Because when it gets really bad, when you see that 2008 kind of crash, like they changed the definition of recession a year ago.
Like, what is a recession?
I'm like, if it was under Trump, if you met this level of not GDP growth for this amount of time at any other point in time in its history, they go, well, that's just the way we've kind of done it, but it's not really like etched in stone. But I was like, but you mean you're saying that now because we've hit that level that puts us in a quote unquote recession? But if it was Trump, like, you wouldn't be changing the definition to like pretend like we're not in a recession, even though every metric we've used historically forever has been met to say we are there.
They would make the rules more strict if it was your dad. It's technically a recession.
Yeah, it really is much worse than...
Growth was lower than 5% this year, so really it's a recession.
I do love when Obama was like, what did he say? There's no magic wand. You can't get 4% growth.
Abracadabra, bitch. But it is. But again, it didn't take that much. And again, this is with even a lot of the people on our own side working against us. And I mean, that's sort of the miracle of the Trump presidency. Is like, he actually notched some pretty serious wins despite the Republicans working. I mean, Paul Ryan and the things that I don't want to do that. Like, if we build a wall, like, we may upset a couple people, like, who hate us, like, and would put us in the gulags. Like, well, I can't have that. I'm like, really? Like,
do you think there are people like that? Like, if your dad wins next year, are there similar people who you would advise him to be careful of, who might work against him?
I think 100%. I think he knows who probably most of those people are.
Do you want to name names?
Well, listen, I'd say, the vast majority of the United States Senate, there's a couple great guys in there, but, it's a tiny handful. I think, honestly, it'd be much easier to name people who aren't on the list than who are.
Interesting.
Right? I mean, no, but like, if we're going to be real, I think there's a couple great people in Congress, meaning the House. But again, that's a small part of that machine, right? The unelected bureaucrats, I'm not sure I can name one that isn't, but no, they did that. They entrench, Obama did that very well. They entrench a bunch of people that are career, and you try to change the job role that, that's not appointed by the president, so you can't touch them. Their life, they could be the most incompetent people in the world, but they got tenure, so they can stay there. Like,
it makes it really difficult to clean house.
It's the least there's no meritocracy in Washington, D.C. If you can get in those positions, you're there for life.
I mean, if you merited anything, you wouldn't be in D.C.
Of course, yeah, exactly. Yeah, if
you're doing survive in the market.
And I think that's the other part of the attack on Trump, which is like, we don't really want someone from out of the system ever doing this again. Like, that system works really well for us, and we'll keep, we want to make part of it's the statement of, hey, if you're another successful guy who's done this in the real world and you want to get into politics and, like, imagine what they try to do to, Elon's not born in America, so he can't do it. But if it was someone like that wanted to run for president, be like, yeah, I've done what I put people on Mars and, yada, yada, yada. Maybe I'll do this. Imagine the revolt. They don't want that. That's a threat to the system that they've created that has been very beneficial to them, but no one else.
And that's why it's so important they don't get away with what they did to Trump with the FBI attempting to unseat him.
But this means...
Because that will send the example to the American people that they will beat you if you try to stand up against...
I don't think firing these people is enough.
No, I agree with you. I just don't... Listen, I have my opinions. I have what I'd like to have happen, which is far more grave than what would ever happen. The problem is you actually still have to play within the realm of reality, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I'm compromising my position. My position may be X, but I just know it ain't happening. Nothing's going to happen. Now, I want to keep pushing. I want to make sure we get people elected who can actually try to do that. I'm going to do whatever I can to make that happen. But sometimes we get caught up on, this is what I want, and if we don't do that, I got 99% of what I want, and it's like business. You never get 100% of what you want. Republicans do that poorly. We take our toys home and we cry having like 99% of what we wanted, rather than taking the win and we'll work on the 1% starting in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
The Democrats get 51% and they're starting on the next one the next day. They take the win, move on. They take the win, they move on. They take the win, move on. And it's a death by 1,000 cuts. They get where they want. We don't do that well. We don't play that game well. And, and I understand a lot of it's because we're principled, but I think a big part of, my principle is actually getting where I want to be realistically. And I don't want to blow important wins because I didn't get 100% of what I wanted in that. And, people, oh, you're a sellout. I'm like, no, this is how we actually get some win instead of 0 wins whatsoever, which is what we're really good at getting.
I don't know if you would know, but I'm curious your thoughts on a potential vice presidential pick for.
I think it's too early right now. So there hasn't been much conversation
about
list? It. Honestly, I
yours
think
personally.
Yeah.
Listen, I'd want someone in there I just tasked to clean house in certain things, right?
Who would do that though?
I think there's a couple guys out there that could do that. A couple,
who
maybe, or women.
Specifically?
I'm not going to go there because I know what the media will then. And Donald Trump Jr. is undercutting his father, and he's announcing but. No, listen.
Yeah, Hannah Claire.
If we list a bunch of people, would you not?
Would you tell us hotter or colder? Can we?
Yeah, you're getting warmer. I don't know. Maybe we put Tim Pool in charge of DOJ, just cleaning out.
Lock him up, Tim.
No, but I think you get some people. I got people like Trump also who don't care anymore. Some of the people who've been wronged.
Yeah.
Okay, the people who they tried to break, who they tried to bankrupt, and probably did in many cases. I'm not saying all of them, because there's some that, again, you got to, but there's some of those people that now understand that their life meant nothing to these people. And when that happens to you, maybe it happened to me, okay, you know what? I don't want to curse, but F you, and we're going to, we don't care. And I think, again, that's the most important, that, as much of a just total reset, not to, again, that word will be used against me as, oh my God, conspiracy theory, you're not allowed to say it. But like, just if we could start from scratch and eliminate as much of that bureaucracy as possible, have people willing to be like, this guy's the North Korea. He was an expert. He led the North Korea policy for 40 years. I was like, what'd you do? Well, Trump's doing it all wrong. But why?
Well, hold on.
Because you've led it for 40 years, but you've accomplished nothing in 40 years. Like, why should I believe you?
But you don't. What you got to do is you got to sit him down and say, what would you say you do here?
Well, Bob.
You can't take
it'll feel like like Office Space all over again.
I want to say, I despise politics. I would never want to be involved. People jokingly say, like, maybe, why don't you run? Why don't more people run if you're so pissed off? And I'm like, I just don't want to go anywhere near it. I can't believe people want to. I told Carrie Lake, I can't believe you want to keep running. She's talking about the Senate. But if Donald Trump said, look, you complained so much about these people, we'll put you in charge of all the indictments. It's yours now. I'd be like, yes.
Everyone is going to jail. Everyone's going to jail.
I think we need a team of like rabble rousers that are like informed conspiracy theorists who have been far more who have been far more correct than all of our elite and educated media. Just let them, give them each a task and just be like, have at it.
I mean, frankly, informed and conspiracy theorists are a redundancy these days.
The conspiracy theorists, they're batting like 1,000 as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
And like,
even Elon Musk, he said recently when he was in an interview, he was like, well, a lot of them turned out to be right. And the guy's like which ones? And he goes, the Hunter Biden laptop. And then the interviewer goes, okay, well, that was true.
Stop bringing it up.
Again, I always talk about Wuhan Lab leak because it was so obvious. Like
Jon Stewart goes on Colbert and says it.
Of course it happened there.
It's the most obvious thing in the world,
the only one more obvious than that was Jussie Smollett because but like, of course it didn't. You're telling me it came from 3 feet outside of the bio lab that studies the exact virus that leaked,
was crazy.
By magic. Like it just. And if you were in academia, if you were a doctor and you questioned, there was no other answer. There was no other option. Of course, it was that.
And the former CDC director said that pressure was put on him to not acknowledge that publicly.
There was a scientific paper.
Yeah, he's a conspiracy theorist.
I think it was South China University in Beijing or whatever it's called, where they said
called "If We Did It."
No,
they published that.
Yes, if we,
but this is like OJ looking for the murderer, walking in circles.
If we did it, this is early on. They said bats had bitten people and urinated on people, and that's what they think caused the leak. And then they quickly said, we retract this, we got rid of it, because probably the CCP came in and said, do you enjoy living? And they were like, we do. I said, then get rid of it.
Of course. Well, the guy that top scientist that went missing that asked a question, asked a question, and and then obviously you saw this stuff in congressional testimony during peak. It was like the Fauci emails versus the Fauci TV appearances, on the cover of Vogue magazine or whatever the hell he was doing. They are literally a contradiction. You cannot. So was he lying to the American public or was he lying to his colleagues in medicine? Because they were literally polar opposites. One of them has to be a lie.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.